This is That's What She Said. My name is Beth Kelling, and I'm going to talk about my family's company, Sherman Buildings, and also one of my favorite topics, leadership. Being in business with my dad, brothers, and nephews in a male-dominated industry has taught me new ways to show up and speak up. It has sharpened my voice and strengthened my purpose. There's nothing like building something real with the people that you love. In 50 years, we haven't heard of a single one of our buildings go down, because at Sherman, we don't just talk about erections. We make them last forever. Beth Kelling, welcome to That's What She Said.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So this podcast is about Sherman and leadership, and I wanted to have you on first because you were the one who gave me my first role in leadership.
I'm first? Whoa, okay, awesome. All right.
So I'll start from the beginning. I've always loved to work. I legit get distraught when I see a help wanted sign and I don't have enough time to take on that job.
Right.
Even like the new bar in town, 125 Tavern, they just posted that they had an opening for 15 hours a week. And I spent like 10 minutes like, I can work there 15 hours a week, like calculating in my head how I could do
from
it.
4 to 4:30 and then from 6:30 to 7:15.
Yeah. But then my reasonable part of my brain kicked in and was like, literally, you don't have any time to do this. So you love to work as well. And you have 3 kids and a wife that deserves your attention. So what do you do to make sure that they have the best of you?
Definitely watch their moods to see what I can get away with trying to get stuff done and when I need to pull back a little bit. Delegation is huge, and the biggest part of delegation is trusting other people and, kind of getting over yourself because you get that feeling that I have to do it. I'm the only one that can do it. And trusting others. And then trying to be hyper-focused when you do have the time and kind of, conduct your evenings with purpose, to be like super technical. But when you do have time, plan out what you're going to do. With my youngest, it's talk about numbers, talk about letters, spell words out. That's what he wants to do. With my middle son, we play Minecraft. And my oldest daughter, she's a preteen. She doesn't want nothing to do with her dad. So I try to hang out there as much as I can. But and then, Heather, we watch movies and TV and hang out. Try to get a couple hours in as a couple every night, hanging out. And
Stay present in what you're doing.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of it all the time, but that habit everyone has of, being at the kitchen table on your phone scrolling through stuff. Well, that's precious time that you put that down and, okay, you can multitask of eating and being with your family at the same time and asking about school and all of that. And not perfect, but those are kinds of things I try to do.
Yeah, I think we were raised to believe that multitasking was good, but I'm trying so hard to not multitask. Like, just focus on the one thing you're doing, even if it's going to the bathroom. Like, don't scroll and go to the bathroom or walk up the stairs and scroll.
Yeah, next thing you know, your legs will be numb.
Yeah.
Yeah, time gets away. No, but I have resolved, I get into these projects where it's like, okay, I have to get this project done and get hyper-focused on that project. And then next thing you know, I'm working 80 hours a week and not doing a good job at, things I was talking about earlier. And right now I'm in a phase of, okay, I actually just completed like 3 big projects that I was pretty sure I was the only one that could do it. And so I was hyper-focused on them. And now I'm like, okay, I have to put out all of the fires around me that have been building up because I've been too focused on these individual projects. And now it's like, okay, well, it's spring getting into summer. I got to work on my lawn, and the kids want to, boys are young. They want to learn how to throw a ball. I got to work on those things. And go all in when you have to, but make sure that you're not focusing too deeply on one project and not spreading your attention around everybody that deserves it.
Yeah, like part of you be focused, but the other part be open to everything else going on. It's like a balance.
Yeah, some people are really good at compartmentalizing where it's like, whatever they're doing, they're focused on it, but then they can switch gears, and have a healthy family life. And I struggle with that sometimes, but I'm getting better, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And remember that time that I got home from vacation and I called you? I'm like, Deven, there's more to life than work.
I probably didn't believe you.
Yeah, I believe it. So in 2017, 2018, I mentioned to you and another family member that I wanted to get back involved in Sherman again, because it had been like since 2007 since I had been. And I didn't know where I would fit in. It was like bookkeeping, accounting, but me and numbers don't get along. So I just wasn't sure what I would do. I had just thrown it out there, but then I had put it out of my mind. And then 2020 came along, and this is where my leadership journey started. And it started with podcasts. I had heard about podcasts for a couple of years, but never gotten into them. And so I opened the podcast app on my phone and started searching and couldn't find anything I was into. So I searched for something with positivity. Because if I'm going to spend time listening to something, I want it to be uplifting.
Right.
And the first podcast that came up was Simon Sinek's A Bit of Optimism. And I got obsessed. I got through all of his episodes and then started watching his YouTube videos, interviews that he had done, and like learned his entire philosophy on everything. And I kept thinking, what am I ever going to do with leadership? I'm a bartender, and Sherman wasn't on my radar. Nowhere else was on my radar. I thought I would bartend until I was 50. It was good exercise, good money. And I got to talk to people, which is my favorite thing. So I'm just a strong believer in following what your instincts say, even if it doesn't make sense. So I just kept watching. It was like a year of watching these episodes over and over. And for Christmas, one year, you had just moved home, and I got you one of Simon's books. Do you remember which one it was? Maybe The Infinite Game.
It was The Infinite Game.
And you were so excited. You're like, I know him from his YouTube video. And I was so proud and excited to give you something that you were excited about, because intellectually you're like way up there compared to me. So it just made me so excited that you were excited. And I was like, I have somebody to talk to leadership about.
Yeah, literally had one video saved to my desktop, and it was his TEDx talk that I think was his first one that made him famous. And yeah, the only, inspirational video or thought-provoking video that I would routinely watch like once every couple months.
I thought you even said that you emailed it to yourself once a year. You set it up to email yourself once a year so you could remember.
Wouldn't surprise me, if I was doing that at the time. Yeah, because it's very inspirational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so fast forward to 2021, that summer, you randomly called and were like, hey, one of the salesmen in the office needs some help, maybe like 10 hours a week. And I was so ecstatic to get back involved. And fast forward to a couple more months, you were like, hey, can you do a couple tasks for me? You started giving me more and more to do. You were crew manager. And so I just started doing small stuff. Fast forward a couple more months, and you called me one night and were like, hey, you're better at this than me. Will you take over my job? And I can't really describe that moment. It was so surreal and so surreal to me because, wow, I finally get this chance to be in a leadership role. And at that moment, I realized I had wanted this job since I was 15, but I didn't know what it was that I wanted. I just knew that I wanted to be involved and be a leader.
Yeah.
So that was super exciting.
Yeah, you started that phone call pretty terrified, and you were pretty inspired by the end of it. So I like to think I'm
and then you were like, I'm going to leave for 2 weeks and go visit my grandpa in Arizona. And I was like, you can't leave me. You can't.
Yeah, that was COVID, and we thought he was dying, but he's still going. Yeah, he wasn't in for COVID. But that was the precautions that were going around. So like we couldn't see him. We were like looking at through a window and like waving. And my grandma needed help getting errands done and all the things that go along with your husband being in it was a rough time. So we got in the car maybe 6 hours after we made the decision and just started driving. Yeah. And I actually told Heather, I'm like, I'm going to Arizona. I'll be back sometime. And she's like, well, why don't we just all go? I'm like, I didn't think you were down for that. All right, let's all go. And I started packing, and I think we had like Thanksgiving at my parents' house or something like that. And then we left.
Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
So making that decision to have me be crew manager, was there any fear with that? Because I didn't have a ton of construction experience, and being the first woman, around Sherman at that time, we had an accountant and a woman working in the wood shop, but otherwise, was there any hesitation, any fear with that?
No, you got to pay attention to or divide like the real role versus how somebody in the past has done it. And the role of crew manager before I had it was somebody that was very deeply involved in lots of different aspects of Sherman. So then they tried to bring in all of the aspects of the whole company into this role and tried to use all that knowledge to inform how they should do that role, but they didn't focus on the individual people that they were managing, and because there's always a trade-off, right? So he spent too much time thinking about the business as a whole and not enough time focusing on what does Bobby, this person that I'm managing, really need, which to him was probably felt really smart. I see the big picture, but what do they say? They miss the forest for the trees, or maybe it's the opposite way around. But that crew manager position, the way I saw you fulfilling it, was more as a peer leader of people and more as a coordinator of needing to make sure that all these people that have a job to do know what it is they're supposed to do. They're inspired to do a good job at it, and they're communicating with the other people that they need to get the job done. And other people that have had that role tried to monopolize all of that power and control. But when I saw you doing that job, I saw it more as coordinating all these people that had to work together. And I think you did a pretty good job of that.
Thanks.
Yeah, so foresaw that.
Yeah.
No, I think that handoff went all right, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it ended up going really well.
And yeah, I think a lot of people probably stepped up and helped you, where you had knowledge gaps and stuff. And
yeah,
I think it was
100%.
a good, almost team building exercise there. Let's get Beth up to speed enough on pole buildings and construction that she can take all these leadership strengths and people skills, fill in those gaps on the construction knowledge, and make one heck of a manager.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to just be thrown to the sharks and get all of it, all the craziness done at once, so that when it does calm down a little bit, it's that much easier.
Yeah. And you didn't even call me at all. I felt so unneeded.
Oh, yeah. I remember you saying that, like, you're not calling me enough. I'm not needed enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I had so many people around here helping.
Yeah. Good.
So I didn't know that I wanted to do crew management or be involved in Sherman when I was young. But one thing I did know when I was young was that you work more than you do anything else. So it has to be something that I enjoy. I personally made myself as valuable as I could at every job I ever had so that I could be picky because I didn't want to get stuck in a position.
Right.
And I've never had a bad boss, but I've had plenty of bosses act bad. Like when you bring them ideas or solutions and they won't listen, or they shoot you down before they even hear the whole idea. And that's usually because they hate their job, they've given up. Now I'm super thankful for those bosses because they've taught me exactly how not to be. And one of my favorite things Simon ever said was, let us all be the leaders that we wish we had.
Sure.
So eternally grateful for those bad bosses now. So again, we work more than we do anything else in life. So being at a company that you aren't able to contribute at or move forward just feels purposeless. And speaking of purpose, my favorite all-time Simon quote is above my computer. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it has something to do with the tough things. I think it's how do we overcome fear? How do we overcome fear?
Purpose.
Yeah, and it's thinking, at least my interpretation is, why am I doing this thing that I'm fearful of?
Yeah.
And it's the purpose that drives you.
Yeah, that quote has gotten me through so many hard times, times that I had to confront somebody or share an idea that I didn't think would go well, things that I never thought possible.
Yeah, today I had to make a tough decision and have a tough conversation, and I used that quote to help get me through it, and yeah, it's a good one.
So there's times that I've stood up to people and you've been like, oh my God, how did you do that? Like, how did you stay calm? How did you calm that person down? And I've always been like, in my head, and I don't know if I've told you this before, but it's impressing you is that purpose. Because when you're standing there and watching me have this hard conversation, that makes me that much more likely to succeed in that conversation. Because you're watching me and you're seeing that I'm standing up for what the company believes in, which I believe is protecting the rest of our coworkers by having those uncomfortable conversations for the greater good.
I think that's reciprocal because I've definitely pushed myself in tough conversations just to try to impress you.
That's awesome. And so that brings me to this. At Sherman, we provide shelter for people, obviously, but recently we launched an apparel website and a food truck. So
Rocking it right now.
Yeah, yep. The basic human needs for survival, food, shelter, clothing. So we got that down. But many thinkers, psychologists, and spiritual leaders throughout history have said that relationships are just as important, if not more important than basic needs like food and shelter. Emotional survival and human flourishing. Like Abraham Maslow said in the hierarchy of needs, once basic survival needs are met, the very next tier is love and belonging.
Sure.
And all major religions teach care and compassion is central to a meaningful life. Mm-hmm. And Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, said that the deepest human need is meaning, and that love and connection to others was often what kept people alive, even in the concentration camps. And I even heard last week, no one ever takes their own lives because they don't have food, shelter, or clothing, but they do because they're lonely. So just like teachers have to make sure that kids aren't lonely at school, I believe it's a leader's job to make sure that adults aren't lonely at work. Like Simon always says, anyone can be a leader. It's about behavior, not your position. Mm-hmm. So us having the close relationship that we do has gotten me to do so many hard and important things. So I'm hoping that we're setting examples for the rest of the leaders that we work with. As Simon says, as goes the leadership, so goes the culture. So I hope our crews, our admin, our salesmen are all taking their relationships just as seriously. I hope it, trickles down from the top and that they can all do hard things together as a team also.
Yeah, we have managers that, going back to something you just said, we have managers at Sherman that were leaders long before they were managers. Mm. They became managers because everybody around them were like, oh, that guy's a leader or she's a leader. Yeah. And they move into the position to exercise that leadership more effectively, have the formal power to move things forward and get things done as a manager. But they've been inspired as a leader this whole time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. And I hope that you co-host with me sometimes.
Yeah.
And so when we start branching out to other guests, I think it would be very valuable if you were sitting in here with me. So
Look forward to it.
Thanks so much. I've been incredibly lucky to lead with a group of people who believe in leading with compassion and making work a fun environment. At Sherman, we have mental fitness reimbursements, volunteer reimbursements, team building activities like rock climbing and scavenger hunts. Last fall, I interviewed someone who said they heard we were a healthy company to work for. The next day, I interviewed someone who said they heard we were a kick-ass company to work for. Nothing could have made me happier or more proud than those two words, healthy and kick-ass. Now those are the words I strive for this company to be and will continue to as long as I'm here. What I love about pole buildings in general is that if you're building one on your property, you likely aren't leaving it soon. You're anchoring down and staying a while. You're building a life, whether it's your weekend getaway, hunting shack, your garage, or your home. We have so many exciting things going on at Sherman, from our barndominiums taking off to a mobile home division, a food truck, apparel store, this recording studio, and ramping up for our 50th anniversary next year. My main goal of these episodes isn't Sherman, though. It's to have fun and normalize emotional intelligence in the workplace. I never thought about being a leader, let alone a good one. But if listening in on conversations about leadership has gotten me this far, I can't wait to see how much I can learn from being in on conversations with coworkers and other leaders from all walks of life. I am most interested in women and how they've navigated to get where they are. All it took for me was following my instincts and someone believing in me.